All right, hopefully this is going to work now. All right, hopefully it works now. Sorry about that previous attempt. For those of you that don't know, I just tried to live stream through a scheduled event kind of a stream, and didn't work. There was audio issues, and I couldn't see chat really in real time. Everything was delayed, funky, so I'm not sure what's up with that. But hopefully this is working. So hopefully folks can make it in, and we'll get going here in just a minute. Hey, here, have a seat. So this is my daughter Hannah. Well, hey, Papa Doubles, welcome. Glad you're here. Papa Doubles, I just had a weird experience trying another stream. The audio was bad, things weren't working. So can you just tell me if things are good, if you can hear okay, and all that, if things are going okay on your end. Hopefully they are. So anyway, welcome to the stream. Hopefully some other folks will get in shortly. It's good? Excellent. Eddie Laycock, good. Thanks for coming on in, Eddie. And sorry about that previous attempt. I tried a different function on YouTube because I wanted to announce this in advance so people would actually know when the stream was. If you're going to eat in front of everyone, maybe that's not a good idea, so maybe go off camera. So I wanted to make it so you guys would know when it was and schedule the event and all that, and so I used a different kind of stream on YouTube, and yeah, that didn't work, so I'll have to figure that out, but not today. Not today. Anyway, glad it's working. So, got some folks in here. Good. Welcome, welcome. So, I had fun today. It's a really busy day for me, but most days are. But the kids and my wife and I took a little break and went and played basketball today all together, and that was awesome. And it's kind of embarrassing, but my daughter is a better shot than I am now, so I got to get back into it. I was really good in junior high, you know. So, all right, welcome. Flynn's Fish Farm. Hey, Flynn, just stopping in for a minute. I'm gonna go to the LFS and grab some plants from my tanks. Awesome. What plants are you planning on getting? I'm gonna guess. Let me guess. I'm gonna guess Anubias, some kind of Java fern. I'm guessing Anubias. That's my guess. Let me know if I'm right. Harold, hello from Montreal, Quebec. Welcome. Danny's Aquariums. Hey, hello. Another Danny. Great name, man. Great name. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to draw the second winner now. I don't like to do that thing where you force people to watch to the end, you know, and kind of make them watch you even if they don't want to, and then give them a prize. So Danny's Aquariums, what? $1,000 giveaway? Wow. Yeah, so so let me explain what's happening for some folks, and what the rules are and how this works in case you didn't know, and then I'll draw the winner right after that, and then if people want, we'll chat a little bit until people have, you know, are like, okay, yeah, the chat dies down and stuff, and then we'll call it at that point. So what's going on is I got 1,000 subscribers recently on YouTube, which was great. It took like a year just grinding out. So I was really happy when that happened. And so that's my daughter Hannah wandering around back there. So I was happy when that happened, so I was like, how can I do something cool that will celebrate that, thank the subscribers, and just be awesome, and make it so maybe it doesn't take another year to get the next 1,000 subscribers, you know, draw awareness and things. And so I came up with this giveaway event, this contest, if you will. So what's happening is I'm giving away $1,000 of aquarium fish at dansfish.com. And how that works is I drew the first winner yesterday for $100. I'll draw the second winner for another $100 today, right now in a couple minutes. And then every day through the 21st, I will draw another $100 winner. So that's 10 days $100 winner at $100 a pop. So that's $1,000 we're giving away. In addition to that, if you go to dansfish.com and create an account, you'll get an automatic $10 credit applied to your account right then automatically. So, well, it's not an addition. If you win the $100, you get $100. If you sign up, you get a free $10. And then if you win the $100 contest, I increase that to $100. So anyway, hopefully that's clear. So that's what's going on. So there's several ways to do that. If you go to the website, dansfish.com, there's a Gleam widget right there at the home page. It's right at the top, easy to find. And if you click on different things in that widget, in that window, you can do different activities that get you points towards the drawing. So if you do one thing, like if you like the Facebook page, then you click on the button in that widget screen that says like the Facebook page or visit the Facebook page or whatever. You do that, you click on that button, that takes you to my Facebook page. You do that action, and then that gives you 1 point towards the drawing. Then you could also subscribe to the newsletter on the website. There's a monthly newsletter that I do, and I don't spam you or anything. It's once a month, and it's not huge or anything. It's like one sheet that talks about a cool fish, something cool that happened in the hobby, something like that, and then maybe a special that I'm running, and maybe some cool trivia about Dan's fish. Just short and sweet. And so you could sign up for that. That would give you a second entry into the contest. Then you could, there's a couple other things that you can do as well. If you share it to folks, if you share the giveaway contest, you get another entry each time you share it. So you can, the more actions you do, the more likely it is that you win the $100 drawing for that day. So that's, well, not for that day, for the entire contest. So if you entered the first day, you could still win on the 9th day, even if you did nothing else. It carries through the entire 10 days. So that's what's going on. Hopefully that makes sense. So yeah. Hey Owen, glad it's working, glad you're here. You'll be at 2,000 subscribers in no time, says Danny's Aquarium. I hope so. I hope so, man. That year-long grind to grind out 1,000. Whew. So I hope so. I hope there's some traction and that people like the content. And I mean, I'm having fun. If you guys are having half the fun I am, then I think we'll do okay. Just share it on Facebook. Great, Flynn. Thanks. Hopefully you did that through the widget on the dansfish.com website, so you can get a point towards the drawing. If not, next time you do, go to that widget, and then that automatically enters you into the contest. So, Danny's Aquariums. What if you're not in the U.S.? I know. Yeah, it's for the continental United States only. I'm sorry. Shipping live fish to Canada, I'm just or Mexico or any place out of the continental United States, I'm just not set up for it. So I'm sorry. I do value everyone that doesn't live, in the United States. It's just there's so many difficulties and barriers put up to ship live animals to other areas. Now it can be done, and we'll get there one day. I've done it at other areas I've worked, but there's permits I'd have to gather. There's a lot of paperwork and setup and cost associated with that. So, and then there's just it's just another thing, and I'll get there. I'm not there yet. I'm sorry. So, okay. Danny's Aquariums. I have to watch the replay. I have to go. My mom is calling. Grr. All right. We'll see you. You'll see you at the replay then. So, okay. So let's go ahead and draw the second winner. So how this works is I have Gleam, the widget I'm using to do this whole thing. I'm going to go to their site. There's a button there I push to pick a winner. It picks a random winner, and then that's the person that wins for that day. Now, what I wish, my intention was I wanted to screen share while I was picking the winner, because just for transparency and because it's fun and all that. Hannah, stay or go? Stay or go. Good. But I did that yesterday, and luckily I wasn't sharing the screen at that time because it it showed personal information. It showed the person's email address and some things, and I can't do that. So just gonna have to trust me a little bit that I'm actually doing this. So let's pick the winner. All right, drawing one winner, and drum roll. We have, all right, Johnny Cruz from Salado, Texas. You have won $100 at dancefish.com. Johnny Cruz. So what I'm going to do is when this is over, I'll go to my website, see if he's signed up for an account. If not, I'll email Johnny and get that set up. Yesterday's winner was Dolores Miranda, and today's is Johnny Cruz. So congratulations, Johnny. You've won $100. And yeah, awesome. So I'll draw another winner tomorrow, and yeah, I wish I knew exactly when so I could tell you guys. How do I do this? So once I know when that might be, I'll include it in the comments of the original video I made announcing the 1,000 subs equals $1,000 contest, if I can pre-plan that much in advance. So yeah, and guys, I'm working on this. I'm figuring out the technology. I'm figuring out the equipment I need to make this work. I'll eventually have a nice thing behind me and good lighting and all that. But right now, if you wait till everything's perfect to start, you'll never start. So I've got the basics to get it going. So I'm just going to do it and learn as I go, and hopefully you'll go on that journey with me. All right, so that is the drawing for today. Christian, first live stream I've been able to catch. Well, thanks for coming. I am glad you're here. So how I'm going to do this now is the winner's been picked, all that. Folks might be like, okay, now I know, and I'm going to take off and do stuff on Saturday. Maybe it's nice out where you are. I totally understand. But if anyone wants to stick around and has questions or wants to chat about fish, feel free, and I'll keep going for a while as long as there's activity. And once that kind of peters out a little bit, then we'll say, okay, it's time to cut this. So we might go for 2 minutes, we might go for half an hour, just depends on how active the chat is. So thanks for being here, guys. I do want to tell you about something that I learned actually a couple days ago that I never knew this. So I have this strategy that I use, and I know a lot of other people use it too, to feed my catfish, because I have a lot of species of Corydoras, and a lot of them are in with very active fish, like rainbow fish and different barbs and things like that are very quick to the food. And so when I feed them, the Corys don't necessarily get enough food. And catfish can eat a lot. Like Corys will eat a ton of food, and they need to get in breeding condition. It's one of their main triggers. So I have this strategy where after the lights go out, I come down and I drop a bunch of food in the tanks for the Corys so that they can eat while the other fish are asleep, presumably, right? Well, Flynn's Fish Form, I'm sticking around until I got to go to my LFS. Good, glad you'll be here. So the other night, I fed the, I did that. I went around and dropped food in the fish tanks that have Corydoras in them, right a little bit after the lights went out. And then I did something for a little bit, and I came back down, and I looked in one of the tanks, and I saw a big ball of fish around. I had fed chunks of rapashi, and it sinks to the bottom. And there's just this big ball of roseline barbs all around the food. I was like, well, that's weird. So I took out my phone, and I turned on my flashlight, and I shined it in there, and sure enough, all these roseline barbs were ganged around the food eating it, and the Corys couldn't hardly get a bite. Those roseline barbs, man, they're quick, and they're right on that food, and they take big chunks out of it, whereas the Corydoras don't have the mouth aperture to really take a big chunk out. They kind of suck and nibble little bits. So they feed a lot more slowly on something like rapashi. It's not like a worm that they can just suck it up and be done. They have to work at it to get it off. And so I was like, well, that's weird. So I went and I looked at the rest of my tanks. And it was working fine in like the rainbow fish tank and the tetra tanks and the angelfish tanks and things like that. The cories were eating, and the other fish were, off snoozing, and it was great. But when I got to the Odessa barbs, there was a big ball of Odessa barbs all over the food. And when I got to the clown barbs, big ball of clown barbs all over the food. So apparently that strategy doesn't work for all fish that you're keeping with your cories. So I wonder if I have to do a little more research. This is the first time I've even knew that this could happen. I thought that the barbs would just go to sleep at night. But I wonder if because of their barbels, I wonder if that just allows them to locate food really easily, even in the dark, and so maybe they're not as diurnal as we thought. Maybe they don't go dormant as night quite as much as I thought. So I'm wondering if because of their barbels, they can sense the food and eat it. And maybe that's the difference between them and, say, the rainbow fish and the tetras and the angelfish and such. So I've got to change my strategy. This whole time I thought, and it's not every tank, it's only a couple tanks where the cories are mixed with those fish. And I mean, I have a lot that are not in that situation. So I've got to move those out and do something different. This whole time I thought I was doing right by those cories by coming in at night and feeding them, making the effort to make sure they got enough food, but I don't think they were. So something to be aware of if you have catfish in with, say, barbs, maybe cyprinids in general. I don't know if rasboras do it or danios, things like that. I'm not sure. I just have the roseline barbs, the Odessa barbs, and the clown barbs that were doing it. But be aware of that. If you have catfish, they need food, and that might be a problem for you. All right, Flynn's Fish Forum, gotta go. All right, have fun at the LFS, man. Have fun. All right, go down. Eddie, hi Dan, I've been enjoying watching your recent videos. I'm in England. Shame you can't ship. Yeah, that's a tough one. What are the best starter fish to start breeding? Let me ask a follow-up question. Do you want a live-bearing fish, or do you want to try an egg-laying fish? So let me know which you prefer. Well, maybe I'll just talk about both of them real quick. So if it's a live-bearer fish, then it's whichever live-bearer does best in your water, whichever's hardiest, whichever one the pet stores carry a lot of, and there's a lot of folks in your neighborhood that keep successfully, would be fine. Guppies are always super easy. Platies can be easy. I like swordtails as well. I know they're a little more aggressive, but a little assertive, but I really like them. So live bears are super easy, and here's what you do with live bears. In my experience, you just fill the tank with plants, live plants if you can. I use water sprite. It floats on the top, and you can't kill it. It's super hardy. And you just feed the adults, and a few times a day, 1 to 3 times a day, 4 times a day if you can, but 1 or 2 times a day. They aren't really that demanding. And then the fry will be eventually released by the females. They'll go up to the plants, and a lot of them will just survive in there. And then when you go to feed, if you're feeding flake food, just crush up a little bit when you're feeding on the surface for the babies. Just make sure every time you feed that there's something small that the babies can eat. Maybe squirt some baby brine shrimp in there. Maybe it's a small pellet, like a small golden pearl pellet or something like that. And that's super easy. You just raise them right there in the tank. Egg laying. Okay. All right. So, Brent, I see your question, and I will. I'll answer it in just a minute. So, Eddie, egg laying. Okay, and you're keeping rainbow fish. So, can you tell me what kind of rainbow fish it is? If it's one of the pseudomugil species, like a fricatus or something like that, those are really easy because the eggs they lay are pretty big, and so when the fry hatch, they can immediately eat, say, baby brine shrimp or easily microworms. If it's one of the like Melitaniata species or some of those, sometimes those eggs can be pretty small. And so the challenge with small fry is just finding a food that they can eat that's small enough for them to eat that you can provide regularly. So if I was doing, the way I do rainbows, and I have this whole video on it. If you watch the Wapoga Red Laser breeding and keeping video that I have, I go through the whole process of, first I talk about the fish and stuff, but then I show you the mop I use. I pick some eggs out, I explain in detail how I incubate the eggs, and then I show how I take care of the fry when they first hatch, and then I move them on from there. But basically, here's the process. You have rainbows. The process would be, you put a mop in there. Well, there's two ways to do it. The easiest way would be to have 2 tanks, put the rainbow fish in one tank, then in a couple weeks move them to the other one, and make sure there's plants and stuff in the tank that they were in. The fry will hatch, and a few will survive in there if you're feeding them. But to get a good number of them, what I do is I put a spawning mop made out of yarn in a cork floating in the tank with the rainbow fish. Make sure that it's like a polyester yarn, acrylic yarn, I think that's what it's called. Rayon, I want to say rayon. Acrylic yarn, but a synthetic yarn, not something like wool or cotton that will decompose in your water. So you put that in there. Rainbow fish lay a few eggs a day. They generally spawn daily, and they're not like a barb or a tetra or something that stocks up a ton of eggs and then goes and spawns and just has hundreds of them. They're not like that. They'll lay a few a day. So hopefully you can get a group of a lot of females, because then you can get a lot of eggs. But feed them really well. Feed them a variety of foods and feed them well, and as often as you can. If you can feed them 4 times a day, do it. Never overfeed each feeding, right? But if you feed them, say, if you have live food, great. Give them some fruit flies or blackworms. Then the next feeding, some frozen brine shrimp. Then the next feeding, some frozen bloodworms. Then the next feeding, some flake food or some pellet food. Just a variety and often. And the reason you want to do that is the variety ensures they get the nutrition that they need and the balance they need, because certain foods are lacking certain vitamins. And then the frequency is just so that they have the energy to produce as many eggs as possible. Eggs take a lot of fat, and fat is basically energy. They're little balls of energy. That's what they are. Enough energy to get a young life going. That's what an egg is. And so feed them heavily. If you do that, then hopefully the females will produce as many eggs as possible for a fish that spawns a few eggs a day. So you do that. Rainbows generally spawn in the morning, so let them go. It helps if you don't have other fish in there that'll eat the eggs. I mean, I keep a lot of mine with cories, and it's fine. I don't notice a big problem with the cories eating the eggs. But there are fish in certain kinds of shrimps and things like that that'll just go and hunt eggs. So don't keep them with those if you want a good yield. And then you let the eggs harden for a few hours in the mop. If you collect the mop right when they're spawning or right after they spawn, then the egg membrane isn't set quite yet, because it has to remain permeable for the male sperm to fertilize it. So after it's fertilized, it gets pretty hard. And so wait a few hours. I would wait till the even early afternoon, or if you work, when you get home from work in the evening, whatever that schedule is. Give them a few hours to harden. Take out the mop, and you can squeeze it pretty hard. Don't wring it really hard, because that's enough to burst the eggs. But if you just take it out and wring out but squeeze out the extra water, then you can do that, and usually the eggs are just fine. They're pretty tough. So do that, and then I put them in a small container of water with a few drops of peroxide in it to prevent fungus. I change 100% of that water 2 to 3 times a day with fresh aged aquarium water, but from an aquarium that has no fish in it or anything. So basically I take tap water, run it through carbon to take out the chlorine, and then bubble it for a few hours, and then use that water. And then they'll hatch in a little couple weeks, say, and they usually hatch at night, so you'll come in the morning, there'll be babies there. And then I take them out from there, and I put them in a small plastic container, like a little plastic shoebox type thing. Sprinkle some golden pearl powder across the top. It's really small. It's like 50 microns. I mean, it's small, 5 to 50 microns, I think. You can use Repashy powder. You can use, those are the two that I've used. I prefer the golden pearls because that's all small, whereas Repashy, some of the granules will be a little big. So, and then they won't be able to eat those, and then that's more likely to foul the water. So that's what I feed them. In that container with them is a little clump of like Java moss. You could use water sprite, you can use any plant. I put in some decaying leaves in there. I have a cherry shrimp tank that I keep, that I put leaves in every few weeks, dried leaves, like from local hardwood trees, and they gradually break down. So some of those that have started to kind of break down, I'll grab some of those and put them in the container with the fry, and then I put in a snail and a cherry shrimp to help kind of, a few snails and a cherry shrimp or two to help eat the waste, the food that isn't eaten, and things like that. And then I change that water whenever I change the water on the eggs, 2 to 3 times a day, same kind of water. And that way you can overfeed quite a bit so that there's enough food in there that the babies find it. And those are really small foods. So it's the powder, and then I also use vinegar eels too. Every time I feed, I do vinegar eels, and then I sprinkle some powder on top. And that's how I do rainbow fish. They take a while to grow. I've got a couple hundred like Wapoga red lasers right now. They're getting on an inch, but that's taken a couple months. I mean, they ain't no killifish. Killifish grow fast, but they're worth it. They're awesome. So any rainbow fish you could treat that way. The pseudomugils are easier because their eggs tend to be bigger. Gertrudii eggs are a little smaller, but pseudomugil like furcata, those have some pretty big eggs, and those babies can eat like newly hatched brine shrimp right off the bat, microworms. And so as the babies grow, no matter which species they are, you gradually increase the size of food. So that's how I'd handle that. Let me know if you have any follow-ups. All right. Okay, okay, let me click down on the next question, which was Brent Quick. I just won an auction for 3 twig cats, wild. It's the Vittatus. Any advice? Well, first let me look that up so I make sure I know which species that is. And if anyone else has experience with that, I think it's Farwella, right? It's the Vittatus, so that's just the normal Farwella. If anyone else has experience with that species, then please feel free to chime in, and let's see if we can't help Brent out. Yeah, Farwellas. So here's my advice for Farwellas. Well, let me talk about some unique challenges to keeping Farwellas first. So the main challenge with a Farwella is you won't know that there's a problem with it until it's already dead. In fact, you might even not know that it died until quite a while after it's dead, because they're so stationary and they have this armored body, so it's hard to see when things are going wrong with them. That's one of the main problems, I think, in keeping them. There's a lot of fish that when there's something wrong, it's obvious. Their fins clamp, they stop moving around as much, their appetite diminishes. But when you're looking at a Farwella, it basically just stays stationary all day, most of the time. And so it's hard to tell if its activity is diminishing and if its appetite's diminishing and all these things. So that's the challenge, I think, with keeping them. The main thing is to make sure, I think, that they get enough food. So you want to keep them in a well-aged aquarium. If you have algae and stuff, keep the front pane clean, right? But if you can leave the algae on the sides and on the back of the aquarium, that'll be a big help. If you can get some pieces of wood in there for them to scour over, that would be fantastic. A lot of surface area with just biofilms and algae and stuff growing on it would be helpful for them. That's, I guess, my lowdown on Farwells. If someone else has other advice, yeah, please feel free to chime in. But congrats on winning the auction, and they are a cool fish. Oh, they want clean water too. I think most Most fish do, but farwell is, okay, I think I'm remembering this right. They come from pretty much flowing water, and so they're going to want it pretty clean. All right. Eddie Laycock, Egg Lane. Oh, yeah, sorry, Eddie, I already answered that question. Christian Parnell, were you able to find something to keep the beetles in? I haven't had the time to look, man. There were some good suggestions, like these protein shake bottles where you can unscrew the bottom. So that's a good suggestion. And there were a couple other good suggestions, but I haven't had the time. And, you know, I tried feeding them some more, and the fish just aren't really that excited about them. So, I don't know. I think I might be giving up on them. Just the fruit flies work so well. I wanted them, though, because, you know, to have another dimension to the diet and add a layer of nutrients that the fruit flies don't perhaps provide. But, I don't know. I might. It's just a time thing. It's just a time thing. But, yeah, those protein shaker bottles might work okay. I didn't test it, though. Kyle's Wild World. Hey, caught another stream. Yes, you did. Glad you're here. Eddie, I have Bosmani and some blue rainbows. Yeah, so the breakdown on breeding the rainbows that I went through, that'll work with them. And those guys have small fry. I assume you're talking about Leucostris, the turquoise rainbow, when you say blue rainbows. So those are going to be small fry. So be patient, keep the water clean, and keep food in front of them all day long. That's the deal. All right. Pal Joey, 1957. Wait, did I skip some? Oh, Pal Joey. Okay, I'll go down to you, Pal Joey, and then kick back up. First of all, absolutely love the screen name. I know the show. I'm an entertainment kind of geek, so awesome name. And I think I remember chatting with you a long time ago. So you've been doing this with us for a while, so thanks. Egg layers first is to find out if egg scatterers or eggs that adhere. Yeah, then configure tank accordingly. Yeah, that's sound advice. So the rainbow fish, they're not egg scatterers, right? They'll deposit the eggs in mops and things like that. So, but that's right. If they're a scatterer, then you set it up basically for scatterers. I mean, there's these kind of basic setups, and if anyone wants to know more about how to set up an egg scatterer breeding tank, I can go into that in a little bit. Kyle's Wild World. Dan, I got a question for you. I have an 8-gallon cube that I'm going to set up for my father. Oh, cool. I want to stock it with micro or chili raspberries. Good. I have hard alkaline water. Will they be okay? Absolutely. Yes. So I have a confession to make. I have not, for over a decade, worried about if the fish will do well in my water. And in that whole time, I've only had 2 problems with fish that didn't like my water. And I'm actually having them right now. But I've kept hard water fish in soft water and soft water fish in hard water. It's all about keeping the tank water clean. And it's all about keeping the parameters stable. And yes, I've seen chili raspberries kept in super hard water all over Los Angeles doing just fine. Now, I have seen them kept in like basically RO water as well, and there is a difference. I mean, they do color up more in that soft water, so there is a difference. But as far as health and their activity and their longevity, and even being able to breed them, I know of a lot of folks who have done that in hard water with a lot of soft water species. So it's about keeping the water clean. The problem with soft water is that there's no buffer, and so you can crash the pH pretty easily because you get the different things decaying and stuff in there, and that can cause a pH crash because there's no buffer. Especially, you know, carbonic acid and some things like that can result. But if you keep the water clean, you don't get the buildup of the decay, or the byproducts of the decay building up to such an extent that it crashes your pH. So clean water is the solution for soft water. Hard water, the problem is if you put a soft water fish in hard water, then it's exposed to a ton of different kinds of bacteria and stuff that it doesn't experience if it's collected in the wild. Because in the wild, water that is soft is generally acidic, and if it's acidic, bacteria has a hard time growing in it. Acidic environments are fairly sterile when it comes to bacteria. So if you take a soft water fish that's lived its life in this acidic environment and you put it in hard water and the water's not clean, you're probably going to have problems, because that alkaline water just fosters bacteria growth. Bacteria does great in alkaline water. So keep hard water clean to keep soft water fish in it. Keep soft water clean to keep hard water fish in it. That's the solution. Now the trouble I'm having this time, and again, I've been doing this way for a long time and had no troubles. This is kind of the first time that I have, since I can remember actually, is I have some Santa Maria Endlers that are not doing well. And the only thing I can think of is that they were probably raised in hard and probably somewhat salty water and are just not doing well. Now, I lost a lot. There's this core group that's holding on and is acting normal and eating well and all that. So I'm hopeful that they'll do okay. I'm hopeful I can get some babies out of them and that their babies will be more adjusted to my water and I can keep them going. But I'm having trouble with them and with desert gobies. I've never kept desert gobies before. I did get one spawn out of them, but then they just started, the only thing I can think of for them is soft water as well, that they came from perhaps some really hard water and are not doing well in the soft water. Now I can't confirm that either. I haven't paid for a necropsy or anything like that. So I could be totally wrong. Maybe the soft water has nothing to do with it. But the trick to keeping fish in parameters they're not used to is to keep the water clean and keep the parameters stable. The worst thing you can do is try to keep lowering your pH to match the fish's environment. Unless you go high tech and get an RODI system and have a storage tub where you can make the perfect batch every time and keep their parameters stable, even if your water is really high out of the tap. If you have somewhere you can soften it, keep it completely stable, and then put it in the tank and it stays stable in the tank, you'll be fine. But usually messing with parameters is a problem. Yeah. All right. Zachary Mayhew. Oh wait, do I have to go up? Did I miss anyone? Zachary Mayhew. Who won? I didn't get to the live stream on time. So the winner was a gentleman named Johnny Cruz, and Johnny lives in Salado, Tejas. So Johnny won today. We'll draw another winner tomorrow though, and 8 more winners. So yeah, congrats Johnny. So CNH Aquatics, hello. Well, hello CNH. Glad you're here. Already talked about Child Joey's. Hello Hungar. Hey Kyle, thanks for the super chat. I appreciate that. Yeah. That's the second super chat I've ever got in my life, so it's like a thrill. I bet after years of getting super chats, the thrill wears off, but right now it's like $2. No way, that's awesome. So thank you. Pally Joe, marbles and low water level for egg scatters plus a few plants. Yeah, that's one way to do it. Christopher Graysek, hi Dan, I'm wondering if you think Corys will do okay on Eco-Complete substrate. So Christopher, I'm not the person to ask that because I've never used that substrate. Most of my tanks are pretty darn bare. I've always been a breeder first. Breeding fish is what intrigues me. The spawning behaviors, the colors, the strategies they employ to spawn, and some protect the eggs, some guard a rock or a nest, some keep them in their mouths, some carry them on their lips, some, there's all these different strategies. Some just scatter 1 million eggs and maybe one survives. That fascinates me. In taking a fish through the process of a generation, from spawning to egg to fry to juvenile up through, I just love it. So I've always been a breeder first. And when you're breeding fish, you're concerned about waste buildup. You have to keep the water clean in order to keep the eggs from fungusing and all that, and you have to keep the water really clean so that the babies don't have a problem. The easiest way to keep water clean, in my experience, is to do a lot of water changes, of course, but also to have a bare tank, because then there aren't a lot of crevices and stuff. Like Eco-Complete, if I filled the tank with that, there'd be a lot of places for debris to go and accumulate. And so because breeding is kind of what I've always done in this hobby for the most part, And that's how I've set up my tanks. It also makes it a lot easier to like know where the eggs are, because if it's a bare tank with one spawning container or something, then that's probably where most of the eggs are. If it's eco-complete and planted and all that, then they could be anywhere. And if you put a mop in there, they might lay in the mop, but they're probably also laying a lot of eggs in the plants and a lot of eggs in the gravel and things like that. So I've never used it. Someone here, a lot of people here probably use eco-complete and other planted substrates. So could someone chime in and let me know, or let Christopher know? I'm pretty sure people do it. Like, doesn't Bob Steenfont keep quarries on eco-complete? I can't remember. Zachary, congrats to Johnny. Yes, of course. Kyle's Wild World. I do run Rhodey and Mix Tap. Oh, R-O-D-I. I'm all Rhodey, like rodeo? Like a band Rhodey? Groupie? And mixed tap water for my Kili and Beta Hendra. Yeah, as long as you can keep the parameters stable, that's the trick. The problem is when people put hard water in their aquariums from their tap and then try to doctor it in the aquarium, and it just yo-yos up and down, and eventually that's just going to kill your fish. What kind of Kilis do you have? And have you bred the Beta Hendra? That's a species I haven't tried yet, and I want to. They're the green ones, right? Like an iridescent green on them. Am I right about that? But what species do you have, Kyle? Mimi's Aquatics. Congrats to the winner. Yes, Johnny from Tejas. Thomas Perkins. I just left my first aquarium club meeting. How'd it go? Where was it? Did you buy some fish? Was it an auction, or was there a lecturer? Like what kind of meeting was it, Thomas? That's awesome. Jim Hanley, you are more popular than Eagles? Oh, Dan, you are more popular than the Eagles-Falcons playoff game. Well, I hope so. I mean, look at this mug. Who wouldn't want to come watch this for a while, right? Thomas Perkins, why am I the only like? That's a good question. That's like a philosophical question. It's like a thinker question, right? All right, Mimi's Aquatic Treasure. I am like number 8. Oh, cool. So anyway, Kyle, if you're still here, I want to know what kind of Kilis you have, and if you've been able to breed those Beta Hendra yet. So, it's been 42 minutes, so I'm probably going to shut this down soon. I feel like I've reached the bottom of the chat. If anyone has any specific questions or comments they want to make them now, and we'll keep going. And if nothing appears in the next few seconds, then we'll just call it good. We'll do this again tomorrow, give away the next winner, and I don't know the time yet. If I can pre-plan, tomorrow's nuts too. If I can pre-plan, then I'll announce it as soon as I know. I'll put it in the comment section and pin it to the top of the comment section in the original video I did announcing the contest. Okay, that's how we'll do that. Pal Joey, I'd like to hear from anyone who attended the King of DIY meeting at Brooklyn Aquarium last night. Yeah, if anyone, I would too. That would be awesome. Day 5 Aquatics, just here to say hi. Hi! Mission accomplished. Like, check that off the list and feel the flow of the good endorphins, because you did it. That's how I roll. I have these long to-do lists, and every time I check something off, I'm like, yes! Makes you feel like you have control of your life, even though yeah, sometimes you don't. Thanks for pronouncing my name right, by the way. Everyone doesn't, lol. Well, hopefully I can do it again. Zachary Mayhew. Thomas Perkins, I hate Eco-Complete. I'm not a fan. The only thing I can grow in that tank is algae and duckweed. Yeah, I've never tried it. How about other folks? Anyone else here keeping Eco-Complete in their tanks, and how do they like it? I've just never tried any of those. I try to really avoid nutrients in my tanks, and so a substrate that encourages nutrients in the tanks is just something I try to avoid. So just because of what I'm doing, which is breeding. I run all my tanks dirted. Cool. I've heard that works really well too. As long as you don't move anything, right? I've never done it, but that's the word on the street. Yeah. So Kyle, now that you're back, what kind of Kilis do you have, man? And I was curious if you bred this Beta Hendra or not. if you've bred, I forgot the R in that word, if you've bred the betta hendra, because that's a species I'm interested in. So if you have, I'd like to hear about it. It's a clay-based dirt. Cool. Day 5 Aquatics. I had Eco Complete in a tank for a while. Liked the look. Didn't grow better than my dirted tank, but was a cleaner look. Yeah, is it black? Right? Am I wrong about that? I thought Eco Complete was black, or maybe it comes in different colors. I don't know, but personally, I like a black gravel on a tank, a black bottom. Yeah, cool. All right. I'm hanging out a little longer because I really want to know about those killies and those bettas. Thomas Perkins, great. We had a discussion about live food, and I picked up some snails. Cool. And I'm going to go pick up some multis later this week. Awesome. So, live food. They aren't all easy. You know, some of them are a little bit challenging, but in general, there's a lot of live foods that you can grow super easily with very little maintenance, not much cost, and you can have a great supplement to your fish's diet. And if you're trying to breed fish, there's a lot of good quality processed foods now. There didn't used to be as much. There's a lot of good quality frozen foods available, and there's Rapashi, the gel foods. They're all great. We used to rely almost exclusively on live food, though, to bulk up our breeders because the quality of the food back in the day wasn't as great. But even though the food's improved, I still feel like live food is just a key element in a balanced diet, and I feel like it really helps trigger breeding on a lot of species. And if nothing else, it helps them just have some kind of interactive experience. They're chasing down a fruit fly, or it's something for them to interact with, which is cool. So that's cool. And you picked up some snails. Awesome. Multifasciatus, I assume, are the multis you're picking up, Thomas, the little Tanganyikan shell dweller. Is that right? The striped guys? Kyle's Wild World. I have Niger deltas. Oh, Blue Galaris? Shodostedi? Blue Galaris have to have the hardest species name to pronounce. I've never known if I've been pronouncing it right, but they are Fundulopanchax, that's the genus, and then like Shodostedi or something like that. The problem with a lot of fish names for me is a lot of them I've never heard. I've only ever read. So I'm never quite sure on the scientific names if I'm saying them right, because I read them, but hardly anyone says them out loud for me to hear. So, and the people that do might not know if they're saying it right either. So I'm always wondering. But yeah, and no look on the hendras yet. Sorry, I'm continuing Kyle's comment. I switched on you. I have them in a breeding tank and just waiting for bubble nests. Cool. Well, Kyle, if you end up breeding those hendras, would you contact me, let me know how you did it, what the experience was? That's a species on my list that I would like to try very much. How about the Blue Galaris? Let's see here if he says any more. I got them off Aquabid from a local breeder, the hendras. They also upload to YouTube as Arlington bettas. Okay, so they're available Arlington bettas. Yes, all Blue Galaris. I fell in love with them as soon as I saw them. How could you not? For those of you that have never seen a Blue Galaris, Google it. But if you've never seen one in person, what's going to be missing on every picture and video you see is the beautiful iridescence that's all over on them. They have these areas on their body that just kind of sparkle, and these veins that are just kind of glow under the right light in the fins. They're amazing. If you ever see one in sunlight, your jaw will drop. They're also a larger killifish, so 4 inches easy, larger all the time, and they're amazing and they're gorgeous, and they're fairly easy to breed too. The trouble I've always had with them, I've bred lots of them, is I'll get tons and tons of eggs, but I'm not always as successful in hatching the eggs. Sometimes I am, and I'll get a great yield, and then sometimes, like the vast majority, will fungus. And I don't know if it's fertility issues. I don't know if it's I don't know why, but they're an interesting fish and they're worth the effort, though. Danny's 5 Aquatics. Are the white-cheeked gobies on your site freshwater or brackish? They're completely freshwater. That particular fish that I have never goes to the ocean. It doesn't go in brackish water environments, and the babies don't grow up in brackish water environments. A lot of gobies, even if they're a freshwater goby, like the name will come to me. Even if they're a freshwater goby, a lot of them, in order to breed them, you need a saltwater time, because what happens is the babies hatch in freshwater, but then flow down to brackish or salt environments, hatch, develop a bit, and then swim back up into the freshwater to live and spawn, kind of like salmon, but maybe longer term in the freshwater. These don't. So these come from freshwater environments. My understanding is that they're kind of the place, they live in rivers and stuff, and then the eggs and fry float down to a lake, where they kind of do the same thing as they would do in an ocean on a different species. So pure fresh water, and they're in really soft water here, and they're doing great. And I actually saw a male claim a pipe, and I thought he might be sitting on eggs, but he's not. But he's colored up, and he wants to be. So my fingers are crossed there. All right, lots of sunglasses, isometric aquariums. Cool. Kai's Wild World. I also keep Florida flagfish and a native killie. You have Zebrenus, so are you in Texas? Or Kansas? Are you in that area? I love that fish. That's another beautiful fish. For those that know what that is, that's worth a Google too. A lot of native killifish aren't that colorful. And a lot of times when you see a picture of Zebrenus, they're not that colorful. But when you see them, kept well in an aquarium. Sorry, I'm getting excited. I haven't heard anyone else talk about Zebrenus for years, so you're blowing my mind, Kyle. They're a larger fish. They can get 4 inches. I've seen them bigger than 4 inches. And the males have these kind of bold stripes on them, and then some locations get like a blood red tail, bright orange tail, and I believe the dorsal and anal fin as well. So they're a really neat fish, and of native killifish, they're one of the prettiest. Cool fish. Yeah, I'm geeking out on this, Kyle. This is awesome. So glad you're here. Thomas Perkins. Basically, all the information was things you covered in your videos. He did not look at me like I was on crack when I said, he did look at me like I was on crack when I said Rice Krispies for worms, for microworms. Yeah, if you haven't tried it, you'd think it's crazy, but it works really well. Cool. Well, did you get any cool cultures? Is there anything you're trying, Thomas, like a new live food that you picked up there? Kai's Wild World. Yeah, mine spawn, so we're back to the blue gularis. Every day I can pull 100 eggs every other day, but I have a lot of trouble incubating due to fungus. I did somehow manage to rear 1 male Niger Delta. The best luck I've had with the blue gularis was I would separate males and females, and then I would put them, this is unusual for me, usually the tanks are bare and all that, but I put them in a tank with a layer of gravel, not too deep, but some gravel, and just choked full of Java moss. Like, so full of plants that it might be hard to find the fish. Put them in there, leave them in there for about a week, and feed them live blackworms. Then I would take them out, and there's a sponge filter in there. I've also done it with an under gravel filter back in the day. Then take the parents out after about a week and just let it sit. And in a couple, 3 weeks, you'll start seeing fry appear, and they'll appear in pretty good numbers. That was the best way I found to do that. Anytime I started picking them and handling them, I'd run into fungus issues too. But if you have a spare tank that you can set up, I got pretty good yields that way. And we're still talking about blue gularis here. And I attempted to hatch a dish of fungus Niger Delta yesterday, but I can't see any fry yet. Yeah. Yes, McKinney, Texas. They are all over the place. Oh, man. I can't do it right now, but Kyle, I might be hitting you up later and seeing if I can't convince you to collect some for me, and I'm happy to pay for them. Man, I love that fish. They're hard to find here. Thomas Perkins, I saw some blue gularis at a local shop. One of them had a white fungus on its head, so I had to pass. Oh, that's too bad. The males have a bright red dorsal and anal fin. with nice zebra stripes. Yeah, so the fundulus zebrinus is what we're talking about there. Kyle's caught a 4-inch male. Yeah, 4-inch plus male zebrinus, sure. Thomas, I'm really excited for the killifish to get here. I fell in love with those fish. I've been a native killifish junkie for years. Yeah, native fish are pretty awesome. Kyle's Wild World. Thanks for try that. Okay, cool. Yeah, feel free to contact me anytime once the weather warms up. Cool, Kyle. I might take you up on that. I haven't seen that fish in a long time, and it's a cool one. Do you breed them? Are you spawning them? Or are they so like abundant in your area that it's like, nah, I can go collect one anytime? So yeah, cool. All right. Well, confused flower beetles seem easy. I'm going to try those. They are. Let me give you a couple pointers on them. They're super easy. So first of all, you can do it with just like whole wheat flour. That's fine. But I've got the best results when I would get like, I would do a mix of whole wheat flour with some rice flour and some other flours that I could find like at a health food store. So the base would be whole wheat flours, and then I'd supplement that with a few other kinds. And keep them in that. And it just takes a little bit of time. What's going to happen is they're going to, over time, they'll just expand their population. And what you want to be feeding is the larva, the worms, right? They're about a 1/4 inch long. And maybe the beetles, maybe some fish will take the beetles, but I never found any that would. But to get those out, what you do, one of the problems with these guys is when the larvae molt, they create just this whole layer over the top of the culture of shed skins, like snake skins, right? Like dried shed worm skins as they develop. And so you want to pretty regular, on a regular basis, open the culture up and like fan it or blow on it or something to get all those off. Like take it outside and kind of fan it. And that'll keep the surface kind of clear of that. And that'll allow it to be easier to harvest. So the way I always harvested those is I would take some flour and run it through a sieve, just strain out the flour and leave behind the little worms. Now, you'll also get a bunch of pupae in there when you do that, and some beetles, and you can take the time to separate them, but it can be difficult. So I always ended up just leaving them together. One trick though is that the larvae have these fine little hairs all over them, and they kind of trap flour dust all in them. So before you feed them, if you're feeding fish that feed on the bottom anyway, you want to put them in a container with a lid, fill the container like half full of water, close the lid, and just shake it up real good. That'll get most of the flour off, and that'll allow them to sink better. So that's something to be aware of with them. One thing to watch out for with them as well is they'll eventually populate to such a density that even though they're kept on dry flour, the beetles themselves will be respirating and create a real humid environment, and you'll start getting mold and stuff building up. So when the population density starts to get really high, like start a new culture, somehow limit the population or increase the ventilation or something so that you don't get, it'll just turn nasty. The first time it happened to me, I was real surprised because it's a culture that you can just set up and kind of forget for a long time. All it is flour, right? But so I had some going for a long time, and then I didn't look at them for a while, and I came down and it was just moldy and gross. So just be aware of that. But that's a cool food. It's super easy, super cheap. Confused flower beetles are pretty awesome. Kyle's Wild World, talking about zebrinus, a fundulus zebrinus. I have not tried spawning them yet. Native Fish Keeper has told me how to, though. I haven't spawned them because I don't want to create a fish I can't rehome responsibly. Yeah, and you wouldn't want to put it back out in the wild or something. So yeah, that makes sense. I've been trying to get darters in the hobby. There's some really great places for darters. Jonah's Aquariums and Sachs Aquaculture out of Florida, or Sackett's. I bought a lot of native fish from him over the years, and they come in pretty well. If you've never tried darters before and you want to breed them, One of the easiest ones I found is the orange throat darter. It's beautiful. Same coloration maybe as a rainbow darter. And they, if you can get a population that is from pretty far south, then they can take the water a little warmer than a lot of the darter species can. And the way you breed those is I just kept them in a bare tank. I kept the water really clean. Had some sponge filters in there, and I think I put a power filter in there too for good flow because they like that. So it was pretty much bare. Then I put a rock here and there to break up the flow so they could hide behind it, and you know, like in a stream, there's some rocks. And then I took a dish, like a shallow plastic dish, and I filled it with fairly small gravel, not sand, but fairly small gravel. And what they'll do is you're probably going to have to do some kind of cold period if you can figure that out. Cool them down for a month or two, and then gradually heat the water back up. And when the water hits about 65 degrees or so, they'll start coloring up really beautifully, and the males will coax the females into the gravel, and they'll inject the eggs into the gravel. And you just have a shallow layer of gravel in it, say 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and it's pretty fine. Again, not quite sand, a little thicker than sand. And you can do two things at that point. Once you've collected a bunch of eggs, left it in there for say a week or so, you can take that container out and put it in another container to hatch them, and that works great. That's the easiest way. In fact, that's what I ended up doing all the time. But the eggs are also pretty sticky, so if you wanted to, for some reason, you could dump out the sand, and a lot of eggs will be stuck on the side and bottom of the plastic container, and you can deal with them directly there. I would just leave them in though. I put them in like a 5.5, 10-gallon tank with some flow, and they'll eat baby brine shrimp right away. They're easy to raise in my experience. Yeah, they're awesome. Kyle's Wild World. Native fish keeper told me 80 degrees and large water changes after a period of no water changes for a few weeks to help induce spawning. Yeah, I know they like it warmer. The Fundulus zebrenus. Yeah. All right, skipping down here. Christian V, I'm loving your content. Tanks from the Netherlands, off to BWWD. Thanks, Christian. Glad you were here. Thanks for watching. What's BWWD? I'm sure that I should know that. I'm going to look that up later, but I hope you have fun doing that. Off to bed. Oh, cool. Have a good sleep. All right, I think it's time to shut this down. It's been a little over an hour. So thanks everyone for coming in, especially Thomas and Kyle, and everyone else that contributed too. But it was nice to geek out, especially with Thomas and Kyle, because we got off into some fun tangents. Hope you all have fun and have a great rest of your day. I will tune back in tomorrow to announce winner number 3. And until then, have a great one. All right, stopping.